I'm sorry, David. Hi, it's James. Just back on those squat box. But David, I'm sorry to hear that you think that the Baptists, you say you're hoping to return to the church. You say you haven't been to the church on a regular basis. I mean, especially on Sunday. You haven't been to Sunday school. You're not a real churchgoer. But you feel the need to return to God, to a belief system of some kind. You feel that the Baptist religion is the one for you because they are more serious about their belief in God. They take the Bible literally. And I've got to say to you, was that not an eye-opener for you that these people are batshit crazy for Cocoa Pops? Talking donkeys, talking snakes. God created the world in two different ways. Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. They contradict each other, David. Read them as separate books. Read them as separate books, as if they'd been written by two different people, and not that they had to be written by one God and therefore they've got to meet and I've got to make them make sense. Read them as if each book was written by a different person, and then tell me that they make sense to you. And so you can be a ruthlessly, sort of authoritarian Christian. I know what the Bible says is true. I'm serious about this. I'm serious because every word in the Bible is true and none of it contradicts itself. None of it. Because if you find a contradiction in the Bible, then that's like finding a contradiction in your life. If you feel that you're a vegetarian, you shouldn't be killing animals, but your job is to strangle animals, gut them and prepare them for other meat eaters to eat, but you're a vegetarian and you don't eat them, so you feel, don't you see a contradiction there? This is the same with the Bible. If you can read the Bible and say that Genesis 1 is the same as Genesis 2, then you can definitely kill animals as a vegetarian and prepare them for food for meat eaters and not feel that you're doing anything wrong. That's where you are, David. You're in that realm of picking and choosing. I like that cherry over there because it's ripe. Don't like that cherry there because it's green. That's what you're going through with the Bible. You're definitely going to find in 2 or 3 years' time, you join that church, you meet some nice people there, I'm sure. I'm not saying religious people aren't nice, David. What I'm saying is they have contradictions in their lives which they just decide not to deal with. They've decided, I don't need to answer that question because it contradicts the answer to this question, which I'm already wholeheartedly involved in. I know that the answer that I've given to this question is absolutely true, and if that question about the Bible contradicts my answer to this question, I'm just going to leave that until I can find some way to make it fit. It's like having a jigsaw puzzle, I've got most of the picture. I've got most of it. It almost looks perfect. But there's this bit and that bit, and well, I've only got 4 or 5 bits, but none of them fit anywhere. So I'll just not bother putting them in. I'll just go along with the broken picture. I'll accept the broken picture, because if I was to force these pieces in to make the picture, you know, whole, it would actually have to. I would have to actually change the whole picture and make it look something different. But I'm happy with the picture I've got. I like the picture I've got, even if these bits don't fit. I'm happy with the bits of the picture I can see that I agree with. You know, you're cherry picking. You're cherry picking. You know, there's no way to make religion be a holistic view or vision of everything that's right and good in the world. It just can't, because so much of it has nothing to do with the picture being good and wholesome and, you know, fine. A lot of it has to do with making sure certain people can't be part of it, and yet you're told that's not what religion's about. Religion's not about making sure that women are less than men, and yet that's what a lot of religious texts tell us. Religion's not about saying that certain people can't be part of religion, and yet unfortunately a lot of what you're going to get taught is about these people can't be converted, they can't be brought into the fold, they can't be part of us, they're too different to fit. And yet Jesus' message is everyone can come to him. So why are people, you know, told before they've even had the opportunity to choose Jesus? Why are they, you know, non persona grata? You know what I mean? If you can't answer that question, then you don't understand what religion is, David. And if you think there is no non persona grata people in religion, you know, if you think everyone's welcome, just talk to your pastor. Oh, sorry, not pastor. Pastor. You know, talk to your pastor. Ask him about gay people, lesbians, you know, homosexuals. Ask him about them being able to adopt children from perhaps, you know, adoption agencies that your church may run, because a lot of churches are involved in this area of life. And whether they believe that no matter what the government says they should be able to, do they try and find other ways to negate it? Or are they fine and open with it, and, you know, any gay person, any gay couple can come and adopt from them? I don't know if your religion is involved in it, but I'm pretty sure if there's money involved with the government, they've probably got some kind of wayward home for kids, and they're involved in it because it's tax exempt, helps them to run their church, and all that money doesn't have to go to the kids. It can be diverted to run organisational, you know, headquarters. I don't know if you know much. See, this is it, Dave. I don't know if you know much about organisations and how they work. I worked a lot in small businesses, large businesses, you know what I mean, and businesses that were outside, should we say, the tax exemptions of the world. You know, that's the criminal, the criminal lobby. You know, yeah, I've worked in all of those areas, and it all comes down to how much money you can get from the government. People don't pay money anymore. Well, how much money is paid now in poppies? You know what I mean? Where does it all go? People always complain that the money that was gathered in this area wasn't spent in this area. It was shipped to some other area of the country. Fucking hell, people are still complaining about fucking the kiddies, fucking BBC's kiddies contributions. Too much of it is spent in Africa, and it's not spent on our own kids here in Britain, you know, and all that, you know. Used to be the government spent a lot of money on that. Yeah, a lot of it was tax exempt religious contributions. And what happened with that? The church took that money, bought Bibles, shipped them to Asia and North Africa, and Africa and South America, and tried to convert people over there to their religion. That wasn't what the money was collected for. The money was to save kids from starvation. Religious groups spent it on Bibles, shipping Bibles around the world. No wonder the Bible is the most fucking bought book in the world. You know what I mean? Most governments have fucking bought thousands and hundreds of thousands of them. You know what I mean? When they should have been buying fucking, you know, coats and blankets and clothes, you know, and pencils and bits of paper for kids to write on, you know, paying teachers to educate them. Nah, they were buying fucking Bibles and trying to teach these fucking ignorant kids that Jesus is your saviour. Now, how does that help them to eat plant food? How does that teach them how to live their lives? How does that teach them to be a more productive member of their society? Paying them to be a joiner or a plumber or a farmer, you know what I mean? Yeah, I can understand that. Feeding them while they're learning those skills, I can understand. But paying for them to sit around and read the Bible, how does that make them a more productive person, David? You said yourself that you don't remember having been in Sunday school for many, many years. So you've been through the education system. You've been educated. You've been taught something. You know how to make a living now, don't you? You weren't given a fish and told eat that. You were given a fishing rod and shown how to catch your own fish. But if you're going to go along the lines of supporting a religious group, they're not even going to give these kids fish. You're going to give them a book that tells them that Jesus is the Lord, and they're supposed to digest that and grow up to be a person like you while they starve and digest the words of Jesus. They won't even get a fish or a fishing rod to catch their own fish. They'll get a Bible. Now, I don't know where you come off on this, but if someone is going to be brought to God, I expect that one of the things they need in order to be a good Christian is a decent diet, so that they're not starving to death while they're learning about God, you know. And this is where I don't get it with religious groups, that they persevere saying that buying thousands and thousands of Bibles is more important than paying for schools and desks and teachers. Where do you come off on that, David? Do you think a young kid in Africa and his 60 young friends, do you think they need a schoolroom with desks and chairs, or do you think that they need a Bible to read, written in, who fucking knows, English, when they only speak their own African language? And then they have to be coaxed or forced to learn English before they can actually learn the Bible, you know what I mean? Or should we spend thousands of pounds translating the Bible into some African dialect rather than, you know, showing them how to dig a well and irrigate a field to grow their own food? I would imagine that digging a well, irrigating a field, growing their own food, I think that would be my top priority. Just as an atheist, I would think that would be my top priority for these young people. And then maybe once we've made sure that they're not going to starve to death in the next 5 fucking years, then maybe I would say to them, you know, here's a book you might want to read. There's one in the Bible, and there's one on irrigation and farming. You pick what one you want to read, and tell me how many thousands of the one you pick you want me to deliver. And I guarantee they probably would pick the irrigation one, not the Jesus God one. But I don't know. We were born and brought up in a civilised nation, Scotland. Do you know anything about your history, David? Do you remember the days when sheep were more important than people? Yeah. Good Christian people. Scoured the earth. Tossed intelligent Christian people off the earth for sheep. But you'll turn around and say, oh, but they weren't real Christians. No way, they weren't real Christians. But they were fucking certainly real Christians of the day. That was the Christians of the day. That's what the Christians of the day did. You know? It's all very well to say, well, they weren't real Christians. But the real Christians compared to what? Compared to the Christians who massacred the fucking Muslims in Spain, massacred the Jews in Spain, massacred the Jews in Italy, massacred the Muslims in fucking, you know, the Middle East. The Christians who massacred themselves in Belgium, in France, in Germany, in England for 300 or 400 years. All Christians. All hated each other because they weren't the right Christians. Not the right Christians, David. They just weren't the right Christians, so it's okay to kill them. Hundreds of years of Christians killing Christians because they weren't the right Christians. Didn't believe in the right Jesus or the right God, or, you know. How the hell do we know who's the right Christian? How the hell do you know that the church you're going to is the right church? How do you know? The church you're going to may be a church that God hates. You just happen to have met the wrong people. And you're damned to hell if you go and mix in that church because your soul's damned to hell because God hates those people. How do you know God doesn't hate those people? Tell me, David, how do you know God doesn't hate them? Are the evangelicals right? Maybe the Baptists are the worst Christians in the world in God's eyes. You don't know. How could you tell? I'm trying to get through to you, David.